compromise your energy. Darling, let your spirit be free. Don't give up, keep on pushing through. Now is the time, it's all up to you. Alchemize your energy, my friend. Let your spirit be free. Don't give up, keep on pushing through. Now is the time, it's all up to you. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, we will always take flight. Keep on pushing through the darkness of night. There's no limit, let's reach for the sky. Shine so bright, from darkness to light.
Welcome to Alchemizing Energy. I'm so proud to be here this Wednesday evening once again. Today we have a special guest, Ababa, Aking, Aduile, Karade, and today we're going to be discussing the tenets of Ifa with our special guest. So with no further ado, we're going to bring him onto the stage. Welcome, Baba Karade. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
I gotta get one of those buttons, like yay!
Yeah,
But yes, I have been friends with you for the longest time on Facebook, and
thank you. Thank you.
yes, I've been friends with you. And actually, I have a few books from your godfather that I have in my house.
Yes.
So I just wanted to, just get your background and like get an idea who you are. Who is Baba Karade?
Okay. I've been in the Isheshe religion. We can unpack the different names that we refer to it as, but I've been involved in this religion now for about 29 years. I've been in Awo in this religion for 27 years. I am the Bawani of the village of Alade in Nigeria. My first initiator is Oloye Ifa Karade, and my current Oluo is Chief Femi Fatunifa Kayode from Ijo Olodumare, which is in the town of Moinia, which is close to Ibadan. It's close to the city of Ibadan in Nigeria. And I am the founder of Ile Imole Ifa, Ifa Temple of Light here in East Orange, New Jersey. And we have been active in the community for 20 years. I'm the author of the book Path to Priesthood, The Making of an African Priest in the American World. And I'm an Awo, diviner, teacher, and initiator. And I think that's enough for one intro.
Well, it's so great to have you here tonight to discuss the tenets of Ifa. So, I have interviewed other Babalaos and I've had different subject matters, and we chose this as the subject matter. Why did you feel like that would be important as a subject for you to address when it comes down to Ifa?
Because when we think about Isheshe religion or Ifa or Yoruba or Orisha worship, whatever label we want to put on it tonight, when we think about that, the core values of what this religion espouses, a lot of times it gets lost in the pageantry of it. Because when you think of the word Orisha, or you think of Yoruba, it applies to so many different things. It applies to the people, the culture, the language, the food, the dress. There's so many different music. So there's so many different things that it applies to. And what happens is because there are certain parts of our culture and our religion that are so dynamic, it's easy for the actual beliefs to get lost in the pageantry of it. And what happens is that when all of that settles, it becomes important for us to reflect what we really believe. And in order for us to reflect it, we first need to know it. And so with that in mind, I want to talk about 7 specific aspects of Isheshe religion, of Orisha worship, of Ifa. And I will say this as a preface that if you talk to 10 different Babalaos, you might get 10 different answers, or you might get a mix of answers. So, with that being said, here are the 7 things that I want to speak about tonight. First one is that there is a prime directive that Isheshe religion exclaims to the entire world, and that is simply this: that all of humanity, all human beings, are meant to develop gentle and balanced character and to display that in the world. That's number one. The second thing is that we believe in the one creator that creates all things great and small. We refer to that creator as Olodumare. We also believe that Orunmila is the prophet of the Ifa religion. He's not only the prophet of the Ifa religion, he's also the custodian of the oracle that we call the Odu Ifa. And he is of what we would call messianic status. Because when we say prayers to him, we say, Orunmila, witness of faith, second to Olodumare, second to the creator. So we recognize his importance as a savior of humanity. We also believe in the multiplicity of creation, the angelic emanations of the one creator that we refer to as Orisha. And that is something that is probably more popularly known, everyone from Alegbata Oshun and Majao Batala, and the many, many, many Orisha that follow. There are the ones that are known widely, and then there are local village Orisha that we may not know of. So there are many Orisha. We also believe that our ancestors must be venerated. Our ancestors must be propitiated. We believe in our ancestors. And truth be told, so does every other religion. We also believe that human beings, each individual human being, although we have a collective destiny to develop Iwapele, every human being has their own individual destiny. And it is critical and important that we learn what that destiny is and fulfill it while we are here. That is why we are here. And lastly, divination and ritual are key components to us living successful and fulfilled lives. So those are the things that I want to talk about tonight. Those are the 7 tenets, if I would call them that, 7 principles, if I would call them that as well. We can put any label on it, but if we want to use the word tenets, these are the 7 principles, the 7 tenets that I want to speak about tonight.
Okay, so let's go into the first one. There are some questions I'm going to ask you throughout when you get into the other tenets. But thank you. Those are some great tenets to get into. You didn't want to go into that there is no devil and all those other things like that. Some of that as well.
We can unpack that stuff after we cover this stuff, because
Okay.
I know that in our conversations it's inspirational. So I know once we go there, we may lose a little bit of focus, but it's all in education, so that's good. It's a beautiful discussion. So before we arrive at that, or maybe we can put that in the section for Orisha. That would be a good place to put that.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's get into the tenet number 1.
Yes. And that is that human beings, every human being, is meant to display gentle and balanced character, which we call Iwapele. They have to develop that within themselves and display it in the world. This is critical and important. The reason why I say that this is number 1, because if you get nothing else from this presentation, this is the thing that you need to have. This is the thing you need to walk away with. The Ifa religion, Isheshe religion, says that the Odu Ifa says every human being must develop gentle and balanced character and display it in the world. That's how important it is. This is the main goal and the main understanding of Isheshe religion. That's how important it is. It's only the beginning. That is the first level of human development. It's the first one. But there are 2 others. and is Iwapele is the first, Iwalewa is the second, which is to develop one's character to the point where you become a reflection of the beauty of nature. And then there's Iwalaye, which is a morally righteous life that moves forward without regression. Those are the three levels of human development. And if we can just get to Iwapele, we can change the face of the world with just that one thing. And that's why it's so important. Where the major world religions that we've been exposed to, that we know of, most of them espouse the idea that there's going to be some great war between the forces of good and the forces of evil, and there will be a victor. Isheshe religion does not say that. Isheshe religion says that we will change this earth into what we call Ipole Re, or the good earth, simply if we would all develop good and balanced character. And that's why it's so important. If we change our character, we will change the world.
So can we go a little bit deeper into Iwapele and Iwalaye? Is that how you spell it, Iwalaye?
Iwalaye is this is two, yeah, Iwalaye is just two separate, because Iwa is character, and the other ones are just the quality of it.
So good. So character that's good, and Iwalaye is character that is
Iwa Pele is gentle and balanced character. Iwa Lewa is the character that reflects the beauty of nature.
Character that reflects the beauty of nature.
And Iwalaye is a character that reflects a moral, righteous life that goes on without regression. And I hate to throw the spinner in there. There's an even higher level, and that is Inyangidi.
And what does that mean?
That means, you got to get me now. It is the authentic human being. The authentic human being.
Wow.
So if I could draw a comparative, if I had to draw a comparative of, this would be compared to stages of enlightenment as we see in Buddhism.
Okay. So, it's interesting. There's so much comparison to Buddhism. I mean, how do you think that happened? Do you think that at some point there was a meeting of the minds of some sort, or just everybody at that time was on the same mental thing at that time, that when these tenets were coming into be?
I don't know that there was a meeting of the minds. I think what happens is that if you look at specifically the esoteric religions, if you look at the religions that have mystery bases within them, earth-based religions, the ancient religions, they all relied on the idea that human beings have to develop themselves. Whether it was Isheshe religion, Buddhism, or First Nation shamanism, there's always there's some part of it that talks about how human beings have to better themselves, as opposed to some outside entity that's going to better you for you.
So it works on the person working on their own character, working on their own thing, and not being afraid of something outside, and also the fear of something so much, but more or less like the fear of one's own missteps causing their own demise.
Well, or something very close to that. What happens is that we can be the agents of our own undoing.
Yes.
That is very possible. However, we can also be the vehicle that propels us to the conscious height of where we all are meant to be. The common thread is Iwapele. That's the common thread. And before I forget, or before I get too far off into something else, the Odu Ifa, the sacred text, tells us very clearly that patience is the parent of good character. Patience is the father of good character. So as we pursue the development of our character, it starts with patience. That is the first step. That is the first step.
All right. So without further ado, let's go into the second tenet of Ifa.
And that is that we believe in the one creator, who we refer to as Olodumare. And that name means the owner of the container of existence that moves on and on and on without ceasing. And that is kind of a way of giving a visual idea of what the creator is. The fullness of the creator in this physical body, I don't believe we're going to get that. However, we can try to glean an understanding based on some of the descriptions and what happens in Isheshe. These names give us clues as to what these things are, whether it's the creator or the Orisha or even the rumors of the prophet. So we believe in the one creator. And to me, the biggest lie that has ever been told over the entire continent of Africa is that we don't believe in a God. We don't believe in creator. And even the word God it's not a name, it's an acronym. Okay. It's not a name, it's an acronym. So for us, we believe in the one creator. Plain and simple. And the creator has several different names. Olodumare, Olorun, Olofu. And there are even more names. But we believe that there is one creator that has created the entire universe. Plain and simple. And to kind of piggyback on what you presented before, is that what we don't believe in, we don't believe in a devil. We don't believe in some place of eternal damnation. We don't believe there's no hell in Isheshe. It doesn't exist.
I wanted to show this slide that I had done that actually talked about the macrocosm versus the microcosm. What do you think when you see this image right here? What are your thoughts?
It's the microcosm and the macrocosm is real, because in order for us to understand the macrocosm, we have to get to the microcosm. We have to go from what we know to what we don't know. So that is it's a how should I put it? I would consider it accurate. I would consider the understanding of the microcosm and macrocosm accurate. But that's also the reason why we get into, and I'm going to touch on this and I want to come back to it. But this is where we get into the Orisha. Because as the vibration of creation filters down to a human understanding, we get to Orisha, and then we get to ancestors and human beings. And that kind of filters into the relationship between the microcosm and the macrocosm. In that sense, it's really all about vibration and levels of vibration.
So what is tenet number 3?
Tenet number 3 is that Orunmila is the prophet of Ifa religion. Orunmila is a very key and central figure. We say Orunmila, witness of fate, second to Olodumare. So when we talk about things like destiny, we talk about human destiny, we talk about divination, Orunmila is a key and central figure in Isheshe, a very pinnacle figure. As I said before, Orunmila has messianic status, which means he is looked to as a savior. Orunmila is one who changes bad destiny to good destiny. He's the repairer of misfortune. Orunmila and the Orisha all came to this earth to have very human experiences and to teach us how to do these human experiences in a better way.
Would
Orunmila is also
Orunmila be similar to like Elijah in the Bible, mean, in the Quran, or Jesus in the Bible, or Moses in the Torah?
If I have to draw the comparative, uh, when we say messianic status, we're referring to Jesus,
Hmm.
like the creator, savior, plain and simple.
Ah, okay.
Olodumare or Rumila. And I know that some people may have a different understanding, a different idea, a different reference in the Sheshe religion. It is just that simple, and it goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than that. There is a verse of Ifa where the creator Olodumare declared that Orunmila and the creator were of equal status.
Hmm. And it says the same thing about Jesus and God, right? In the Yahweh or Elo, the
So,
holy, yeah. So,
but I also want to say this again, and this is one of the key points, very key, very serious, very big point. Ifa, Isheshe religion is a primordial religion. This is a timeless religion, excuse me, in the sense that Ifa predates any of the world religions that we know of. It predates any of the world religions that we know of. These world religions have not seen the advent of Ifa, but Ifa saw the advent of all of them. There
wow.
are elders, there are elders in the Sheshe religion who say we practice the original religion of human beings. That's how old the Sheshe religion really is. We practice the original religion of human beings.
So do you think that this is the where they got the carbon copy from of a savior and the God and the savior, and then that savior and God being one? That is, this was actually the origins of that.
I honestly have to say that I don't know that. I don't know that answer.
Okay.
I would be misrepresenting myself if I said I did. I don't.
Here's the
I also,
question.
I also feel this way.
Hmm.
I don't know, and I don't believe I need to. And the reason why I say that is because the Isheshe religion stands on its own. The Isheshe religion stands on its own. It has its own foundation. It is unto itself what it is unto itself.
I have a
Uh,
question.
sure, please.
So when you say Isheshe religion stands for itself, then I would think about like origins, right? Now, what is Isheshe from Egypt? Where was that the practice of the priest in Egypt and in what I would call Mecca, or would it be Mesopotamia at the time? Was that the practice of the Levites in, um, because as I do more research, it's getting kind of confusing where we stood in all those stories. But I know that we were in those areas when those things were happening.
I will say this that and you and I we discussed this before. We had a very lively conversation, and it was and I appreciate the inspiration that it brings. Um, Black African people began in Africa and spread throughout the world. Whether uh, these teachings came from a central core and spread around, once again, don't know. I don't believe I need to know. What I do know is this: is that Isheshe religion has been what it's been on its own, and because it is so vast and so deep and so infinite, it doesn't need to be connected to any of these other religions. It is unnecessary. That is something that has been passed through us through enslavement and colonialization, the need to validate Isheshe, to need to validate our Africanness, to validate ourselves. We don't need to do that. We simply just need to be ourselves, not validate ourselves. So, and I invite you, I encourage you to take the comparative to a certain point, but then let it go. And the reason why I say that is this, is that if we set uh, East Africa, if we set any of these other places above our own ideas, we will always look as if that's a real thing. When all we need to do is be ourselves. And all we need to do is practice our faith, and I will say this, that developing one's characters is such an incredible challenge that I'm not sure if we have time or energy for that. And when it comes to comparative analysis, that's good in the beginning. Comparative analysis is good in the beginning because it helps you to get an understanding of what you don't know based on what you know. At a certain point, the comparative analysis becomes a crutch, because what happens is that you're looking at the object that you want to compare something to and trying to get it to fit, when the reality of it is it doesn't need to fit. It doesn't need to fit at all. So I've developed a saying and a concept with respect to this. Do not try to put Ifa into your head. Instead, put your head into Ifa. Do not try to put Orisha into your head. Instead, put your head into Orisha. Because do not try to put Egungun in your head. Instead, put your head into Egungun. Because Ifa is infinite. Ifa is infinite. And we have a finite life. We only have a certain time span that we're here. So we better get all this we can get while we're here. And I want to come back to that when we start talking about human destiny.
Right, for sure. So we're on to which one are we at? We're at 1, 2, 3.
Okay, let's go to number 4.
Okay.
And number four is, we believe in the multiplicity of creation, i.e., the angelic forces of nature, or the Orisha. And I'm seeing things in social media. I'm seeing things in communicative circles. Because the internet is the way it is, the web is the way it is, we can communicate around the world. And we're still having discussions that Yeshua is not Satan. There is no devil in the Sheshe religion. But what happened was that when Europeans, when outsiders had to draw a comparative, that was the best comparative they could come up with. So now they're just going to stick this moniker on one of our Orisha. And it's not right, it's not appropriate, and it's inaccurate.
You know, I do have a
not an archdemon.
I do have a question though, okay? Because we want to say, what is the difference between Isheshe and Ifa? Because a lot of times when people are addressing Ifa, they think that Ifa is the religion. No, Isheshe is the religion. Ifa is the library, or the, like, how would you differentiate between what Isheshe is and what Ifa is? Because I know we're talking about the Isheshe religion, but we say tenets of Ifa.
Right. This is what happens. Okay. I received my first divination in 1995. Mm-hmm. In 1995, as far as the Western world was concerned, at least as far as my view of the Western world was concerned, the word Isheshe didn't even exist. Didn't even exist. And it didn't exist because there was a lot about the religion that we were still learning, we were still gathering. It was still all very new. And I'm just one person. There are elders here in the Western Hemisphere that are older than me, that have been in this religion for so many years. There are elders who have passed on. And just imagine when they were in the religion, that word wasn't talked about. So it was a word, it is the true name of the religion, but it's something that we were not exposed to. Okay? And even when I came to the religion, the word was Yoruba. But then we also understood that the word Yoruba applied to a lot of different things, everything from the people, the tribal nation or the Oyo Empire, the people, a type of dress like what I'm wearing now, food, language, culture, the religion, dance, music, all of these different things. But we focused on the Yoruba religion because that's what we were going to. And then as more and more information became available, then we became exposed to Ifa. And Ifa is the oracle. Ifa is the Odu Ifa, the container that contains the sacred oracle, the 256 Odu, which is the sacred text that we seek to to internalize, we seek to understand. Orumila is the custodian of that oracle. So that's where the word Ifa factors in. And now, in the 21st century, we are starting to, as we look into the Odu Ifa, we see the word Isheshe.
Okay.
And because of that, now we come to understand that Isheshe is the name of the religion. And what it is, it just shows the timeline of evolution for us discovering and learning. That's really all it is. The real name of the religion is Isheshe. Ifa is the oracle. It's also a name used to describe Orumila's priests. Both Awo Ifa and Iyan Ifa, both men and women. So that's where the word Ifa comes in.
Wow. Okay. And I think Isheshe means the original tradition, the tradition of the antiquity, correct?
I'm not sure of its English translation, other than to know that it is the name of this religion.
I think,
Also,
well, based on my research, is the original tradition, the tradition of antiquity.
Also, Isheshe is the name of our own spiritual energy.
Wow.
Like to do a comparative.
Like Ashe and an Ishe.
No. To do a comparative, if we think of like in the Asian culture, we think of Chi.
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese call it Ki. The Indians call it Prana. The Bantu call it Moyo. We call it Isheshe. So we call it Isheshe. And the Odu tells us that our Isheshe is comprised of our father's lineage, our mother's lineage, our head, and the energy generated from our reproductive organs.
Wow.
And we should propitiate those before we propitiate Orisha.
And that's where it would be considered where you go into the ancestor and the worship of the ancestors.
Okay. I want to hold on to that thought because I still want to talk about the Orisha.
Okay. Because that's number 5, right? Okay.
Right. So in terms of the Orisha, there are varying numbers. There's some that say there's 200 plus 1, some say there's 400 plus 1, some there are 600 plus 1. And the plus is because there's always room for one more Orisha. The charge of the Orisha, or their mission, is to ensure that evolution moves forward. That's what they're here for, especially concerning us human beings. And when you talk about the microcosm and the macrocosm, the Orisha exists primarily in 3 places. They exist in heaven, they exist on earth, in the earth, and they exist within us. They reveal themselves to us by way of the forces of nature. And that's where we get this common thread. As I had spoke when we spoke earlier, I mentioned it to you that Isheshe religion, Bakongo, Vodun, and Abosom all have the same common thread, that these religions were founded in the propitiation of the forces of nature, which is the original religion of human beings. When human beings began to understand that there was something greater than themselves, they understood it by observing and propitiating the forces of nature. And in Isheshe, we say Orisha, or conscious power.
Conscious power.
Yes.
Does Orisha also mean head owner, or owner of one's head? Consciousness.
It can, simply because the word Ori means head. Now, I will want to address
spelled conscious. But hold on. I think I
But
spelled it wrong.
but I do want to talk about the idea of owning your head, because what happens, at least this is the way it was taught to me, is that it's kind of a slave concept.
Okay.
Because what happens is when a human being is born, uh, Orisha come. We are also, just like we are born of a man and woman, we're also born of Orisha, and those Orisha just don't belong in our head; they're all over us, not just our head. So the ownership thing, that's not. It's not necessarily an accurate concept. We
Yeah,
understand.
you know what? Because actually, if you actually, when I did I'm actually showing slides from my presentation. I think, did you get to see it ever? Did you get to look at the
Uh,
slides?
no, I did not. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, this is kind
Well,
of
no,
going.
I'm seeing what you have there now with the Orisha and the body systems. Um, Aloye Ifa Karade, when he did the Handbook of Yoruba Religious Concepts, he did a comparative of the Orisha and the chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
John Mason, when he did Black Gods and Orisha Studies in the New World, he did uh, Orisha, I think, in the physical body. And these things may differ somewhat, uh, but the thing that doesn't differ is that we know for a fact that the Orisha are within us too. And for those of us who are involved in this religion, that is one of the reasons why we become initiated, is so that we can learn more about that Orisha, but also we can learn more about ourselves through that Orisha, through our Orisha Baba and Orisha Iya.
Actually,
And to a certain extent, depending on our level of development, it is a key and critical role in our development as we seek to develop our character, we seek to become authentic human beings. Uh, it's also key and critical in our lives as far as us fulfilling our destiny. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Another very key and important point about the Orisha, I think it was Awo Falokun wrote about it in one of his books, and there is a verse in the Odu Ijiabe that says that, do you not know that it was human beings that became Orisha? Did Oshun walk the earth? Did Ogun walk the earth? It is human beings that become Orisha. So our potential is greater than we know it to be. Awofala Kun Fatumbi broke it down in one of his books where he said that anyone who delivers Ashe to heaven can become Orisha, which, to understand that in what we already know, it is akin to becoming enlightened.
wow. So pretty much like that we could actually become even greater if we reach our fullest potential here on Earth. At one point, that we could become just as important, or get or as a helper to other people on the Earth, like the Orisha.
What it does is it shows us that we have limitless potential. We have
Is it
limitless.
also like would Martin Luther King probably be considered somewhat of an Orisha, or would he be like a Egu?
He would be like Moremi, a deified ancestor,
Okay, okay.
uh, and rightfully so. And rightfully so.
Would Jesus becomes considered an Orisha?
Uh,
I'm asking some hard questions. I'm sorry.
um,
He's enlightened. He was enlightened, right?
uh, yeah, but I do say this though, literally, and we had this discussion before. I thought that when it comes to Christianity and it comes to the other world religions, I throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Oh, okay.
I throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
Because Isheshe is enough to save my soul. Orumila is enough to save my soul. Obatala is enough to save my soul. So I don't need to hold on to where I've been. And I say that by saying that when I was a younger man, I was almost a Baptist preacher. I came from that. I don't need to draw on that. So it's difficult for me to look at the world religion and say, well, would you consider this? I said it earlier, I don't need to. And I don't need to because Isheshe is enough for me. Awishe Wande Mbimbola, he wrote something, and what he said, I cast my lot with Ifa and no other religion. That's what he said.
I was just trying to get context of how can a human become an Orisha? Like, what would that be considered? Like, who, like, okay, we have the example of Oshun and Orishas like that, but I was just trying to get
and that's the exact place where those examples need to be drawn. If we are thinking about developing ourselves to rise to the conscious height of Orisha, we need to look to the Orisha. Nowhere else. Nowhere else.
Okay.
If you want to learn how to swim, you go learn how to swim. You don't go dig a hole in the earth. You learn how to swim. Bruce Lee said, if you want to train and learn how to fight, go fight. So if we are looking to develop ourselves in the realm of Orisha, then we need to look to the Orisha.
Ashe.
And if you're asking, okay, well, if this is my pursuit, where do I begin? You begin by looking at your own destiny, by getting to know yourself. You begin by sitting on the mat and going for divination and learning about who you are and what you need to do for your own life. And you do that and go from there.
I'm just trying to make it clear for people that are in the back that are not in this religion. Like, I get it, but somebody that never heard of this before might not understand the concept of the Orisha and a person becoming an Orisha and getting up to the level of Orisha. You understand what I'm saying? So I was just trying to break it down for a person that might be a Christian and that's trying to understand what the Orisha is and how one can become an Orisha, from being a human.
Well, what happens with the other religions, they have different values. So a Christian's not going to try to become a Orisha.
Oh, no. I'm saying, like, say if they were leaving that religion.
They want to be Christ-like. A Muslim might relate to a Christian, but he ain't trying to be Christ-like. He's trying to follow the deen of the prophet.
What I'm saying is that, say if a person maybe they're leaving Christianity, or they're in between, they're in the middle, they're trying to figure out other things, right? And they're trying to understand what your understanding of the Orisha is. I'm trying to break down that concept of an Orisha that lived on Earth and then became an Orisha to them. What would it be considered? What would be similar to that they can understand, from their concept? Give an example. What I'm trying to say. How did that Orisha become on Earth 1 minute and then become an Orisha in heaven?
You can look at some of the saints, because when you talk about the actions that one commits on Earth, I think from a Christian standpoint, you look at the saints, you look at the actions of the saints. If you want to draw that comparative, I will say this: that comparative is only good in the beginning, because there comes a certain point where all of that has to be let go. I mean, people can make their own choice, and whatever choice is good for the individual is a choice that I would respect. But that gets into another concept, and that's the concept of free will. We all have that. That's something that the Creator gives us. No one should be able to take that away from us.
Someone said a good example is Shango. Shango was a king. He was a king, and then he became an Orisha. So he was a great king. He was revered.
And what happens is, when you look at Shango, if you want to do a comparative, Shango is a good comparative, because Shango was uplifted to the level of Orisha by his devotees. And when you look at, say, Catholicism, and you look at, okay, how do these saints become saints? They have a process of what they call canonization. And when you go through the process of canonization, they start to record the life and times of this person. What did they do, and what were their actions? What makes them worthy of this sainthood? And then the decision is made. Okay, this is a saint. When we do it, it's called idolatry.
Right. Okay, I see what
But
you're
that's
saying.
a whole nother thing.
Right. Okay, I get what you're saying.
So
Okay.
yeah, Shango is a good example. But by the same token, so is Ogun. Ogun was brought about the advent of iron, the moving forward of civilization in great ways.
Could you briefly tell the story of one of those Orishas so that people could that have never heard of this could get an idea of what like a story of that person, so that they could get an idea why they would be
Sure.
considered an Orisha?
Absolutely. Let's go right back to Shango. Shango was the first Alafin of the fourth Alafin of the Oyo Empire. There is an Itan uh, that talks about Shango originally being a wanderer, considered crazy. He was considered the madman of Ejibu. And there was a leopard that was rabid, that was running wild, just eating people indiscriminately. And the townspeople couldn't defend themselves against this leopard. And so they looked for help. And the madman of Ejibu said, I'll do it. And he took a mortar, he climbed up in a tree, waiting for the leopard to appear. The leopard appeared and he slipped and fell. He fell from the tree and struck the head of the leopard and killed it instantly. And the elder said, from now on, we're going to call you Shango. So that was one of the first feats of this Orisha. That was one of the first things that we know of in his rise. And he went from that to becoming the fourth king, the fourth Alafin of the entire empire. And then because of his overindulgence and because of him losing face, he lost the kingdom. And they said that in his shame, he ran into the woods and hung himself. But his devotees said, Obakoso, the king did not hang. And when his detractors began to insult him, they were mysteriously struck down by lightning. They said, see, Shango punish you for that. And they said, no, our king did not hang. So there is some mystery surrounding that claim. But in his praise, we say the king, that we call his praise name is Obakoso. That's one of his praise names. But in this process, he was elevated to the realm of Orisha by his devotees. And it was just his courageous actions on behalf of the Oyo Empire and his leadership and his kingship is what led him to be lifted to the realm of Orisha.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. That
By the
sounds
way,
like wow.
if you want some more beautiful stories like that, you will find them in the book called Tales of Yoruba Gods and Heroes by Harold Corlander. It is a hard book to find because it's an old book, but it is it's a story-based book. And when we say stories, in Ifa, in the Yoruba language, we say Itan. And the Itan are sacred stories. These are not fables, they're not folk tales, none of that. These are sacred stories about our divinity. So if you want to learn about the nature of these divinities and hear some of these dynamic stories, you'll find them in that book, Tales of Yoruba Gods and Heroes. It is an incredible book.
You know, his story sounds a lot like some of the stories of our civil rights leaders and all type of different people that fought, that rose up. It's just
Well,
crazy.
what happens with respect to that is because the Orisha live within us, it is possible for us as human beings to reflect it. It's possible for us to do that.
So that's just an energy, that type of an energy that it lives on the earth, of that kind of martyr type of spirit, that or like that kind of I don't know, wouldn't know what to call that, a person that rises and kind of falls on his or meets his demise type of thing, and the people,
Well,
and then the bad mouthing that happens afterwards. That seems to happen a lot in situations.
I will share this. If we go back to Orumila the prophet, Orumila kind of falls away from that the martyr concept, because Rumila wasn't about that. Rumila wasn't having that.
Okay.
Orumila came here, and his name comes from a phrase, the name Orumila. And there are some writers that say his real name is Abani Begul, but his name comes from a phrase, Orun Lamo Enitiola, which means only heaven knows the way to salvation. And it is said that Orumila came to the earth 7 times and left for the last time, saying that he would never return because of disrespect that was extended to him by his youngest son. But Orumila came here to show us wisdom and to show us the benefit of wisdom, to show us victory in life by way of wisdom. And he saved the world, but he didn't have to die to do it. There's a particular Odu that speaks of a legion of demonic forces that were coming to destroy humankind. And the Orisha went up against them and failed. The ancestors went up against them and failed. And human beings said, what are we going to do? They're coming to claim us. What are we going to do? They said, call on Otota Iniyan, the perfect one. So call on him. He will save us. They called Orumila. And Orumila said, give me the horn that sounds for mankind. And they gave him the horn. And he blew into the horn. And when the leader of this legion of demons heard the sound of the horn, he appeared before him and said, what do you want? He said, we are coming to slay mankind. He said, you cannot slay mankind. He said, why not? He said, because I will teach them to develop their character. And the demon said to him, if you do that, we will spare them. And Orumila came back to the people and said, change from your wicked ways. Swear on Edan and live a moral, righteous life. And human beings were spared. So we have so the martyr complex is not in any way the totality of our concept of religion or our divinities at all.
Wow.
And that's just one example of how Orumila saved us. There are others. Like when we talk about his insult that he was extended, that was given to him by his youngest son. There was a time when Orumila called for an Ifa celebration, and he invited all of his sons. And each one of his sons was Awos, just like Orumila. And as each one of his sons came, they came with their brass osun and their brass sandals, and they approached their father. They said, Ebo, yeah. And he greeted them warmly, and they came and they joined the celebration. Then the youngest son came. And the youngest son walked in and just came in and said nothing. And it bothered Orumila that his son didn't greet him. But Orumila was patient. He waited. And he waited. And then he finally, when he couldn't wait anymore, he approached his son and says, excuse me, you do not greet me, you do not say Ebo yet. And the son looked at him, he says, I have a brass osun like you do. I have brass sandals like you do. He said, I'm an Awo, just like you. And Orumila became angry. He became enraged. And he snatched his osun from his son. And he walked away and never came back. And the world went into chaos. And so finally, when things got so bad, the family gathered together what little bit of money they had left, what little cowrie shells they had left, and they went to the diviner. They said, tell us what's going wrong. And the diviner said that there's one of the sons that has offended his father. So if you tell your father to come back home, then everything will be fine. So the family walked back to heaven. And they found the Orumila sitting on top of a palm tree with 16 hut-like heads. He said, Father, will you come back? He said, no, I will not come back. They begged him again, Father, will you please come home? He said, I will not come back. And he begged him again and said, Father, would you please come home? He said, I will not come back. He said, well, hold out your hands. And they extended their hands out. And Orumila put 16 palm nuts in their hand that we call Aking. And he said, if you want to talk to me, talk to them. And I will talk to you. And they took the Aking back and they began the process that we call Ifa divination. And in that way, they bettered their lives and bettered the lives of society in general. And that's why we consider the Aking the most sacred object in the Isheshe religion, because this is the thing that Orumila gave directly to us. So that's just another example of how Orumila has saved the world.
Well, you know, someone just said that was a nice breakdown. So you're a great storyteller. All Babalaos are great storytellers. That's part of being a Babalao.
Well, thank you for whoever chimed in. Thank you so much. I think it's an after effect of some of the study and trying to learn this and trying to learn our faith. And we, I don't know Ifa. I am learning Ifa. I will always be learning Ifa.
So we got through the Orisha. The next step is the ancestors, and
Yes.
now somebody told me Igungun be Orisha Kosi, which means Igungun is Orisha also. That's why I was asking, because they say Igungun, some of Igun are what you call ancestors, like revered ancestors. So when you go into Igungun be Orisha Kosi, that's like a phrase I was told.
And I want to internalize that. I want to learn that myself. What I will say is this: is that when you look at how we approach how we interact with Egun, and how we interact with Orisha, there is not that much difference. So when people say you worship your ancestors, my response is, so what? What's wrong with that? I'd love to get an answer on that. I really would. However, I will say this in terms of just in terms
I like that. Next, I'm gonna use that next time you worship your ancestors. So what? I like that.
And my response is, and to extend to that, so do you. So do you.
Yeah,
really? Cut it out.
Cut it out.
But the other part of it is this: is that what we say in Isheshe is it is one knee to Egun, it's two knees to Orisha, which means we kneel on one knee to propitiate Egun. We go down on two knees to propitiate Orisha. So there's just a slight difference in terms of how the technique of how we do it. And as far as I'm concerned, that may be one of the few differences in how we worship Orisha or venerate Egun. We venerate our ancestors. We propitiate our ancestors. We're connected to our ancestors, and we should be connected to our ancestors. And the reason being is we are our ancestors reborn. And since we're on that subject, I have to say a special reaching out to the descendants of those who are enslaved, the Africans in the Americas, from Canada all the way down to Peru and every place in between. Because this time for us is a special time. And I'll say why. Because the average human life is 80 years. In the Sheshe, it is said that it takes 5 generations for a soul to reincarnate back to the earth. 5 times 80 is 400. 400 years ago, our ancestors were slaves.
Mm.
But we free now. And we owe it to them to set them free. They had religion, they had language, they had values, they had mores, they had a way of life. And genetically, their DNA has been passed down to us. And we now, more so than ever before, can find out specifically what DNA that is. And we owe it to our ancestors to set them free within us.
Mm.
So if I can't think of any other reason to put up an ancestor shrine, that's a really good one.
So
And the other thing, and then this is for the folks who are not in this religion, we are doing things to venerate our ancestors, and sometimes we don't know it. And you really, this time of year is when that comes about. Like when, like for Thanksgiving, a person will they'll set a plate for somebody they know that's for granddaddy. Don't sit there. And they'll set a place, or someone will have a curio cabinet of generations of family. But it's important that we don't forget our family. It's so important that we don't forget our family.
hey, how about pour out some beer for those who ain't here?
That's right. Remember Cooley High? The ending?
Yeah.
When Cochise was killed, and they put a little something to the ground. You know, we're doing that.
Pouring
We're doing it,
libation.
and we're doing it, and in a lot of cases, we don't know it. So I think it becomes important for us as African Americans to research African culture and find out, because we just didn't come here tied up in chains. They took a lot more out of Africa than just slaves. They took watermelon. They took yams. They took a whole lot.
We wasn't slaves before when we left. We were slaves when we got to America, wasn't we?
Well, there is that part, but also the concept of slavery was different in Africa, in that there was a lot of tribalism. So if the Oyo was fighting the Fan and they took the Fan as enemies, when it came time to sell people to the Europeans, they gave them the Fan, they gave them the enemy. By the same token, and you see this in the movie The Woman King, they would take warring tribes and sell them.
Mm.
So that's part of how we ended up in the quagmire of enslavement. But nonetheless, we have a duty to learn of them, learn about your family. I mean, the idea of ancestral veneration is a very intimate religious expression because it's so close. You talk about grandma, you talk about nana, you talk about grandma, granddaddy. These are your people,
Right.
and that's it. You know, for me, it starts with my mom and dad, and for a lot of us, it's the people that raised us.
You know,
So
I had this when
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
when I was talking about Benjamin Banneker. You know how he was the architect for DC, and he studied astronomy and mathematics. He created the first almanac by an African American. He has how many different types of inventions that are still used today. You know, people like him, you know what I'm saying, like they're still using this stuff. You know, so
Absolutely.
he would probably, I would think he would probably be in a goon that has to do with Osine. I know in Lukumi they have a goon like Tahose and Maria Regla, you know, and things like that. You know, different Agun that they recognize in Cuba, right?
Right. And what happens with that, it is, I'm sure there's, if you ask them, well, can you tell me the story of this one, that one, this one? They have a story that goes with that. It's a reason why. So I think one of the things that you see here with us here in the West, when you start talking about African Americans, uh, you see it at Kwanzaa celebrations where people of different religious backgrounds, people from all types of religious backgrounds, they'll get together, start pouring libation, and they'll say the name of your ancestors. And some people will say names of their own family, but some people will start saying names like Dr. King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer. They'll just start running down names. Fred
Yeah.
Hampton. They will start running down these names of the people like Benjamin Banneker. Uh, but there are so many of those, so many. There's so many. Like one of the names that we're hearing about now in the 21st century is Robert Small,
Mm.
and they're trying to do a movie about his life because at least what they're saying as far as the background of this movie is that here is a man who was a slave who hijacked a Confederate Navy vessel and then used it to help defeat the Confederate Army. But he's also responsible for us having a school system in the United States. He was a senator in South Carolina and he became a U.S. senator. So who else? Who better to venerate?
Right.
So, but there are a lot of those stories, and we need to find those stories and bring them to light.
So are we on 6 or are we on 5?
I think we should get on 6.
Okay. 6.
And 6 is that every individual that is born has their own individual destiny. So in this life, it becomes important for us to learn our destiny and fulfill it. Why are we here? Why am I here? Why was I born? How many people have been told you special? You're here for a special purpose. What is that purpose? How do we know? But every human, like our lives, from the time we are born to the time we die, we asked for that life. We asked for it. We asked the Creator, Olodumare, and while we were asking for this destiny, Olumila the prophet witnessed it. And then once we asked for our destiny, the Creator granted it. And then our soul makes the journey from heaven to earth. But in heaven, there is a river. And when we cross that river, our memory of what we asked for gets suppressed within our consciousness. And then when we cross that river, essentially, we forget it. And then we come to earth. And that's why when children are born, they go to the diviners to unravel, to ask Orumila, what is this child's destiny? We hear it constantly in the West. Children don't come with instructions. That is not true. Children do come. We all come with instructions. We just, over the years and because of enslavement, we forgot the techniques of learning how to unravel those instructions. For us, we call it a naming ceremony. We call it Esete. So when that child comes, we know that child's destiny. We give that information to the parents. So it becomes the parents' responsibility to guide that child in the way of their destiny and to raise them up to achieve it.
So when you think of this this destiny, like I said, we have I'm also accounting for people that believe in other things, right? That believe that we are born in sin. Does in Ifa, do we believe that we are born in a sin?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
What does Ifa believe? What do we believe in Isheshe? I'm sorry, not Ifa, Isheshe.
What we believe is that we were born to fulfill our destiny. We're born with a purpose. That we asked the Creator for life. We asked to do certain things. We agreed who our parents would be, where we would be born, when we would be born. We agree what we will become in this life. We also agree that there are certain things in this life that we will never do. Those things are woe. Those things are our taboos. Certain things we will never do. And then we also agreed at a particular date that we would die in this body and leave this earth and go home. And the two things in this life that we cannot change is our date of birth and our date of death. Things in the middle, we can negotiate. But those two, we cannot change. You can shorten the day of death, but you cannot extend it. You can't get one more day.
So what happens if you don't achieve your destiny within that allotted time and you pass on early?
Well, that's two questions, but that's okay. What happens if you pass on before your appointed time? You get stuck in the gap. You get stuck. And it is only Olodumare that can grant you that passage. And then you get to move on. But you get stuck in a place that's not quite heaven, not quite earth. It's a gap. And you get stuck there. Now, if we don't fulfill our destiny, there's a particular verse of Ifa where the Orisha were arguing with each other in heaven, and they were like, which place is better? Earth is better, heaven is better, earth is better, heaven is better, earth is better, heaven is better. And they couldn't come to an agreement. So they said, let's ask Rumila. And so they go to a Rumila. They said, Rumila, which place is better, heaven or earth? And Rumila said, earth is the place to be. He says, well, we will continue to go through the process of birth, death, and rebirth until we develop our character. And once we develop our character, we no longer have to go through that process. So part of us developing our characters is fulfilling our destiny as well. So that's what happens. If we don't fulfill our destiny, you have to keep coming back and keep coming back.
Wow. But if you pass on too early, you just get stuck in a void of nothingness until Oromila says you might be able to go back and start all over again.
Well, no, until the Creator allows you passage. Now, I know there are priests out there like, hey, you ain't telling the whole story. You're right, I'm not. There are things that can be done. And we see it. We see it every day. We see it every day, especially in the hood. When someone is tragically killed, they immediately put a shrine up for that person that died. And what happens is that by giving them that ashe, it helps them to elevate. It helps them to move on. But exactly what happens if you don't fulfill your destiny? We'll find that out soon enough. But the Odu says that we keep coming back and coming back and coming back. In fact, those of us who are in this religion, when we come for divination, and usually it's that first time, an Orisha priest or an Awo or a Yanifa, they say, hey, you are Awo born. There's certain Odus that say, this person's a priest, this person's a chief. And the reason why those things are coming out in the divination is because that was who you were. You just come back to pick up the life that you left off. You come back to pick up. You come back to pick up where you started, or actually pick up from where you left off. You start from where you left off.
So that explains kind of even why you put out certain offerings to the Orisha, and or maybe your ancestors and things like that to help them get through that passage, right?
We venerate our ancestors for a couple of reasons. One is we want to give them ashe because we want them to give us ashe. And the first law of African religion is reciprocity. If you want to receive, you must first give. If you don't give, you will not receive. So we give to our ancestors to empower them. One of the things that we teach is what you do to the shrine is what you do to yourself. But we give to our ancestors to empower them. And we ask them to empower us. For example, the Odua Torapun Meiji talks about how, and this kind of leads to number 7, that divination and ritual is critical and important in our daily lives. It's critical and important in our daily lives. But there was a time when the powerful mothers were told to sacrifice and human beings were told to sacrifice. Only the powerful mothers sacrificed. Human beings did not. And when Eshu saw that, Eshu said, okay, fine. This is what happens. Powerful mothers, you get to destroy whatever they do, including them. And then when the powerful mothers set themselves upon humanity, they began to cry out, help us, we need help. To make the sacrifice you was told to do the last time, and develop Egungun. And Egungun becomes a defense against negating forces for us. So that's one of the reasons why we venerate and we make offerings to our ancestors, because they'll do idiotic basis. The ancestors that we serve will never fail to protect us. So that's just one reason. And I know that at least in traditional Isheshe, you will see the Egungun masquerade. You will see the drummers come out and you see the Egunguns dance. When they do that and they release their alashe, they do that to repel negating forces. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. The darkness cannot stand the light. The darkness by universal law, the darkness has to go away. So
You know,
the light shine.
It's so crazy how these outfits look. They look like something psychedelic that people describe in DMT trips. You know, you ever heard people with that actually, it's called the God particle. They take this, it's this chemical called DMT. And when I look at these, what those things look like when they create those Egungun outfits, it looks exactly like a psychedelic like depiction of what people see. It's called DMT. It's what the brain releases when you pass on. It's an actual chemical in the brain.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily understand, and I would say you would have to talk to the Egungun priests, and more specifically, people that make those garments, to get a deeper understanding of what goes into and why.
You know what? I'm going to find someone, because I think that it has something to do with, because when, like I said, I'm glad that we're bringing. Let me just to give you an idea of like the what I'm talking about. Like that, the colors on this. Hold on. On these things, this looks like something psychedelic. It's amazing.
Well, it's interesting. It's just a psychedelic, because when I looked at the first one that you put on there, the first thing I thought about was funkadelic.
Right. Look at I think that's the one that's on there.
So,
look, can y'all see that?
I will see. Yeah, I know you had something. Okay, there we go. Now, see that one that just looks like a village in Nigeria, and it looks like waiting for someone to start drumming, so that Elegun can start dancing.
But I'm saying whatever this outfit is with all this on it looks like a LSD trip. It looks like a acid trip, like if you like DMT, if you ever did ayahuasca, That's what you kind of see. I'm not gonna lie.
I've done none of that, so
I have done it. I've done it before. I'm trying to tell you. I'm from speaking from
I can't speak on that one. I got to interview you on that one.
Dimethyltryptamine, which is already in the brain and released during birth and death.
Yeah.
The visuals are called sacred geometry. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, because like I said, I have done ayahuasca before, and ayahuasca is plant medicine from Peru.
Peru, yeah. But what I've been in my studies of ethnogens, uh, ayahuasca in and of itself is inert. You have to mix it with a booster to bring out the spirit of the plant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so.
And I think the booster that they use is peyote.
Peyote. That's what they're. Whatever that is, it releases DMT in your brain,
Right, right.
and you know DMT is only supposed to be released when you pass on. So,
Right.
so when you when you look at this imagery, that's you kind of see those kind of lines, especially like this one right here with the color. It looks kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what. So
Well,
it's crazy how connected this stuff is without even trying to be. You know what I'm saying?
well, I think it's incumbent upon us to discover and learn those connections, and it's important for us to find our ways, to find our path, and that's where divination comes in. Whether it's an Isitaye when the child is first born, or for many of us like myself who find their way to a diviner and say, "Hey, what's going on with me? I'm trying to get to know myself. I don't understand. I'm trying to figure it out." And those types of things become critical and important, and they begin the path of our rebirth and our rediscovery. And then we find our way, and then we live that. Uh, that is our in terms of Isheshe, that's our path, and that's why divination is so important. Anything that is important in our lives, divination should occur for that particular thing. We do it annually. We do it when there's initiations. Heaven knows those of us who've been initiations, we know what that's like. We do it when children are born. We do it when people pass on. Anything that we consider important, divination should occur at these particular events, especially when those events are rites of passage in the human life.
Mm.
And one of the things that comes from divination is ritual. And one of those rituals is ritual sacrifice. These types of things are timeless, they're ancient, and it's that is one thing that is universal. And there are a lot of commonalities and a lot of common threads in the world religions, but as much as the rest of the world vilifies this thing, our religions are based on it. All of our religions are based on it.
So what is is that part? We going into the second
We're going into
the
the
seventh
last one.
one, which is sacrifice,
Was divination and ritual.
divination, and ritual.
Right. The two go hand in hand. The two go hand in hand.
I thought it was like sacrifice. Sacrifice is necessary.
Well,
You know that's like probably because it's 16 total, right?
well, no.
You got 7.
The Odu Ifa says that Olodumare, the creator, does not require that we engage in sacrifice. However, if you want to be successful in life, you should sacrifice.
Wow.
And there are 2 instances in the Odu Ifa where the creator itself made sacrifice.
Hmm.
And one of them was there was a time when the creator called the heavenly council together and complained. It says the human beings won't leave me alone. It's like I gave them everything they need, and they keep walking back here asking me for this and asking me for that. How do we stop it? And the elders of the heavenly council divined for the creator. And they say get 4 pillars and put them at the corners of the universe. Get a black cloth and throw it over the pillars. Put a chain and wrap it around the pillars and make a sacrifice. And once that sacrifice was made, we couldn't go back to heaven so fast. We can't find it. That black cloth is the veil that separates this dimension from that. And
So
after
psychic.
that, and after that, we have to find our way back. We just couldn't go back. There was a time we could just walk back. Now we can't. And the second instance was that when Olodumare looked down on the earth and looked down at the world, and he saw how the strong would take advantage of the weak. And he took the blood of the men's of his wife and poured it on the earth for those who would suffer. So the Odu Ifa gives us examples where even the Creator itself engaged in sacrifice in heaven.
So I have a question. Well, someone was psychic medium Brandy Mullen said obedience is better than sacrifice.
I think that comes from, I think that comes out the Bible, I think.
Okay.
And in which case, I go right back to throw the baby out the bathwater.
Here's another thing I was going to say is that, so here's a conundrum. Like, if you go to a Babalawo and you get a reading, most of the time there is a sacrifice because this is a give and take, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't do the sacrifice, what happens?
Only heaven knows. Only heaven knows. And I'll give you a couple of examples.
I've been told if you don't make the sacrifice, you become the sacrifice.
That is possible. I'm sure that's not an absolute, but that is possible. Matter of fact, there was this movie, a video from way back when. I think it was Chariots of the Gods. I'm not sure if that was it, but there was this Shango priest from Brazil, and he talked about how they had a celebration, and Shango had come down, and Shango had possessed someone, and Shango went to his father and said, Shango wants a rooster. And his father refused to make the sacrifice. So let Shango get his own rooster. And they kept coming to him. Yo, Shango said he wants a rooster. Shango wants a rooster. Shango wants a rooster. They said eventually his father got sick and died, but he never gave Shango that rooster. But again, if we look at the Odu Ifa, if you look at the Odu Torah Pomeji, or Torah Pomeji showed when human beings didn't sacrifice, and the powerful mother set upon them because they didn't. And their only saving grace was to make the sacrifice and create a Google. By the same token, there's another Odu where Shango was told to sacrifice so that his wife would not become more powerful than he was. And Shango refused to sacrifice. He said, I ain't doing it. So, okay. Since that's the case, before you could do anything, your wife got to go in front of you. And that tells us that before there's lightning, there's always a wind. So before Shango comes, Oya appears first. So, and there's a line that is consistent in several Odus within the Odu Ifa where it says that the children of Ope should make a bow accordingly. So there is another concept when we talk about human beings, there's the concept of free will, which we call akulegba. When we talk about free will, everybody has the right to choose. So what there isn't a coercion to, there's no have to. You don't have to. You don't have to.
So when we get into,
then you get what you get.
Ashe. So then we get into, so I'm going to kind of stir things up a little bit. Because we're talking about sacrifice here, right? So okay. there's sacrifice, there's the things that we have in our religion: sacrifice, possession, things like that. Now, there are we do have room for demonic possession. We do have room for spiritual possession. There's a difference between that. Then you have music and its role in possession, and then you have uh, the actual sacrifices that are done. So there's a whole thing going on, and I know that, and I showed you this earlier. I showed you this image, and I want to bring this up because we talking about the tenets of Ifa, but I really want to bring it to what's happening in current events. Okay, so this is P Diddy's tattoo. Now, Voodoo is the sister to Isheshe. That it is the religion based out of Ghana, Benin. Is Benin out of Ghana? Benin is Benin in Nigeria, or Benin is on. But Voodoo comes from Benin.
Mm-hmm.
Haitian voodoo is from the people that are in God went to, and this is an actual deity called Ursuli Dantor, um, who syncretized with our tradition would be considered. Some people tell me Yemaya, some people tell me Oshun.
Yeah. My understanding is early is syncretized with our show.
Right. So I'm finding out more and more that even in the music industry that some of these things are being, these people that practice, African spirituality of some sort, even down to the white parties stuff that like they've been doing, that there's a lot of people that are practicing in the music industry. Um, and then you hear about sacrifices that are being made, Um, I'm not sure if some people are sacrificing. I don't know what's going on.
And to be quite frank with you, neither do I.
Yeah.
I don't know what people are doing. What I do know is that there's nothing wrong with a person being in their chosen profession and being involved in the shay too.
hmm
Like,
I think it's
like
given a now it's given a bad rap because of the fact that these people are practicing what they practice, and then now it's like, oh yeah, they're practicing voodoo, they practicing shay, and now you have this big upheaval in the music industry, and you got
I don't know that the two are connected, and I ain't giving them that. I don't know that the two are connected, and I'm not giving them that. I'm not.
that people are trying
Just
to draw.
because just because you can put on a yellow dress doesn't make you an Orisha devotee. It doesn't make you a devotee of our show. It does not. It just means you got on a yellow dress, and that's just one example. I will say this: that historically, and you can talk about Lukumi because Lukumi they have their own historians. But
Mhm.
what we do know, and this is stuff on the surface: Celia Cruz, uh, Tito Puente, Mango Santamaria, Desi Arnaz. He was. We were watching I Love Lucy. We didn't know who Babalu was, but he was singing to him,
Mhm. Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
What's her name? The artist that works with Louis Vega, La India.
Yep. Yep. Or yeah. I
Right.
used to have that album. My favorite
See,
film, Shango. Let con. Yeah, I remember that.
right. And then you have DJ producers like Oshulade.
Yep. Ocean Made. Yep.
And there are like this is very modern because these are folks who are doing like we spoke about people who have become ancestors now, but people like La India and Oshulade, these folks are like in it now. Or another one, Shola Akumbola, who uh, he was a percussionist for Jamiroquai. He has a CD project. It's called Nigerian Beats. It is beautiful. Diane Reeves, Diane Reeves, great singer. So we don't have to look at how should I put it? We don't have to look at what people are doing or what certain people are doing and say, okay, we're going to associate this with this. Because here's the thing. You ain't seen them coming to no temple service. You ain't seen them with no lekes on their neck. You ain't seen them standing next to their initiators.
Right.
So, you know,
Hey, Summer Walker, she's a child of Oya. She did it. She actually
Right.
she came out. Yeah, she made sure.
My understanding is that Forrest Whitaker's in our well.
Forrest Whitaker and Danny Glover. Yep.
I didn't know about Danny Glover. I'm like, oh, hey, Abu yay. Come holler at me, man.
Right. Danny Glover and yep.
You know, so there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with people practicing their religion.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I just didn't like the fact that it's like because of that, it's like people are trying to place a stigma, at least in that.
well,
You know,
in terms of the stigma, they've been doing that ever since Diego Ka went into the Congo. They've been doing that ever since Arabs and Europeans ventured into Africa.
right. Yeah.
So it ain't gonna be nothing new.
Hell, they're even going after Yana Van Zant. You know,
I think what's most important is where we stand with ourselves.
Correct.
And what happens is that we don't have to try hard. We just have to do. We don't have to try hard. All we have to do is be. The birds don't struggle with flying; they just fly.
Mm.
The fish don't struggle with swimming; they just swim, and they swim so much because they stop swimming, they can't breathe. So, we are the only ones that struggle with being ourselves, and it's unnecessary. It's not okay to be African. It is beautiful to be African. If that's what we are. And we are. So just be and be proud.
The main thing I wanted to do was get people away from the spookiness of it. You know what I'm saying? Because even like I said, when they talk about I want to get into this last thing, is this possession aspect, right? Well, people say, oh, you get possessed by spirits in your ceremonies. Oh, there's a demons, you get possessed by them. And it's like they don't understand is that when they go to the club and dancing and the music is going, that is a form of possession.
Well, first and foremost, if you're coming from the dominant world religions, everything we do is demonic. That's a jaundiced judgment.
Right.
That's a jaundiced judgment. So once again, baby bathwater, throw that out. Now, please, excuse me. I hate to be a little impatient about that, but we've been there already. We've been there already. We've journeyed through that already.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that I think it was Maurice White from Earth, Wind, and Fire. It had a song that came out in 1980 called "In the Stone." And in that song, he said, "People around the world all about the same." So, if that's true, you can't call what I do demonic. You can't. You can't. I'm doing it different than you. And I'm not concerned about what somebody else calls. I'm like, what you think of me being or expressing my religious devotion, however I do that, what you think of it is none of my concern. I would encourage people to not spend energy concerning ourselves with that. We can take that same energy and give it to our ancestors. We take the same energy, give it to Orisha. We take the same energy, give it to Ruma. We take the same energy, give it to our own conscience, our own Ori. We can take that same energy, give it to our studies, give it to our family and our children. We can put that somewhere else. Ain't worry about that. It's not. It's. What happens is this: we will do it until we fall down dead, and it still will not be enough.
Well, I would also say from a spiritual standpoint is that we'd also I'm not asking these questions to explain to be concerned about what people are saying, but I'm trying to create the dialogue of what truly is happening. You know, we have a very scientific. So here's the thing: when I ask these questions, it's not because I'm putting anything up to the grindstone. I practice. I'm a child of Oya. I'm a crown priest of Oya. So when I ask these questions, it's because I know the answer. The answer to the question is that that, like I said, music, megahertz, and all these things connect to body parts. We are not practicing a religion that is not based in, that cannot be broken down into science, scientifically. It's not spookism. It's not, it's really, things could be explained,
I
even down to deep,
I cannot agree with you more. I cannot agree with you more. Um, and for the people that are, and I think that there are some people who may be interested, who need this type of information, or
yes,
who need the comparative side because of just where they are,
yes,
and that's perfectly fine. Um, I want to get back to something that you said though, because you talked about the concept of possession.
hmm
Uh, that is not always it, it's not a have to. There's a time and place for everything, and
hmm
at a specific time and a specific place, this is appropriate. And
right,
when it's done in that manner, it is a beautiful and sacred thing. It
yep,
is a beautiful and sacred thing. And when we call on the Orisha, when we call them, we are not calling on any negating forces. We're not calling on any demonic forces. None of that. None of that. We are calling on divinities. We are calling on angelic forces. And it's a completely different thing. And again, I think that the one place where we all can relate is when we have our Orisha celebration, specifically when someone receives their Orisha, when they are when they are newborn babies, when they're first introduced to the community. When you have that kind of thing, it's a time and place for that. And when it happens, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. And I can say this in my experience. Um, I've seen the Orisha come, and I've seen nothing but beauty and awe. So if somebody sees something other than that, please let me know what that is because I don't know anything about it. I really don't. And I've seen the Orisha come when maybe we weren't ready.
right, okay,
And but that wasn't our decision. That was their decision. And I'm talking about an initiation. And we were trying to do the best job we could. I'm trying to put all the ashe into this devotee, to this new initiate that I possibly can. And I watched Orisha come down. I'm like, wow. So I've seen nothing but beauty, nothing but beauty and joy. So I think that what happens is that everything has to be done in a with respect to what that process is. And everybody doesn't have to be involved in everything. Like one of the things we talk about in Nishesha is that there are the initiated ones and there are the unknowing ones. And if you are not initiated to this particular faith, there's certain things you should not have access to. There's certain things you shouldn't be exposed to. You're not ready yet.
mm,
And what happens is that as a part of the dehumanizing of the African in general, uh, these things get manipulated uh, and, and presented to the world in a way that's not factual. When if you take it from the other side, then it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
indeed, indeed. Like even the singing, when you combine that singing and the drumming and the ceremony of it all, and then the dance, the whole thing, it's a very beautiful the ceremony is very beautiful.
Yes, it is. And there are so many beautiful expressions everywhere from the Bronx to Brazil, from LA to Nigeria. Um, I take a particular note and looking at the artistry of it, everything from the dance to the making of a dress for Orisha celebration to the creating of shrines, like how is this shrine constructed? What does it look like? Uh, there's an art
The
to that.
beads, the everything.
And I will say this, that there are some incredible people on both sides of the water,
Mhm.
on both sides of the water that do beadwork. It is awesome. It is awesome to see the beauty that the religion produces. So I can't see it any other way than that. I can't.
Mhm. Okay.
I can't. And I would say to people uh, who are going, well, that sounds weird to me. You don't start at this point. You get there. So what happens is that when we talk about returning to tradition, when we talk about bringing people back to tradition, um, you don't have to dive in deep water. You could you could put your toes in. And for people who are not initiated, who are interested in exploring African culture on any level, whether it's uh, and well, I would say that these are the encouragement that I would give. Um, Find something that you like. It could be something as simple as a particular African clothing you like to wear. It could be African music. Uh, it could be African art. You find your way and how you fit in. Some people who, regardless of their religious background, they practice African dance. Some people, regardless of their religious background, they play djembe. Some people know how to cook, so they cook African food. There is a very beautiful documentary on Netflix called High on the Hall. That documentary, it is 2 seasons of it. That documentary comes from a book where this woman received her doctorate degree studying this type of thing. So there's a whole education just on that. So there are so many different ways where we can express the Africanness of ourselves that don't require us to go into some sort of thing that we think is too much for where we are. You know.
So when we talk about a community of priests, okay,
Mhm.
because at one point, I think it was somewhere that was said that there should be a community of priests.
There are already.
A community of priests. Why? Why is that important to have a community of priests?
Because the priests are meant to lead the people, to teach the people, to help the people, to advocate for the people. Who
So
else gonna do that?
right. So and so when I think about the community of priests, right, and how the breakdown is, the Oshun priest deals with like people, communication, love, relationships. You have the Oya priest dealing with the cemetery, the passing marketplace, people that might pass on. You have the Yemaya dealing with birth, sometimes even people passing on. Uh, when you actually break into the Shango, the King, all these different Orisha, if you actually break them down, not only from their regular standpoint, but if you actually break them in from a community standpoint, you could actually have a sound community of people that will all have its place in society. You have an Osain priest that helps with the herbs and all that stuff. You have
Mhm.
that have different places in society to help people, to help each other in different
Well,
ways for different things.
absolutely. I think those societies are here. I think that they need to be saluted. They need to be supported. They need to be appreciated uh, because they're already doing it. And especially in urban centers like New York, Miami, uh, here in North Jersey. Uh, Priests have been here for years. They've been here for decades. So these communities are here. Uh,
Hmm.
I think that people need to find these communities and find out where they fit in within these communities.
In their area.
Right.
Because
And
you go to a babalawo, it comes up that you know, they need to check your stomach and get some herbs for it. And there's an Osayin priest that the babalawo knows sends you to, you know, that might know that
well,
because you know that babalawo might not be Osayin, you know, that
well,
type of thing.
well, here's the thing: when you start talking about our woes, uh, this is the way it was taught to me, and it's kind of the way I see it.
Hmm.
Is that a quote unquote, if I would dare use the term regular awo, um, is like a general practitioner. But then there are other awos who are specialists, and every awo or every priest, even the olosha, everybody can't do everything. So some priests are good at one thing as opposed to another thing. So in some cases, and the Odu Ifa and divination deals with a health and illness. There's a particular section of Ifa that deals specifically with infertility.
Hmm.
Specifically, it's a whole section of your Odu Ifa. It's not separate, but there's a lot to be said about wanting to have a child. So there's this that one thing, and so there's a lot to do with it. So yes, we do work with each other in that regard. Uh, but and when you talk about the divination system, whether it is with an awo or an olosha, divination speaks to uh, the aspects of life, everything from the person, their relationships, their health, their spirituality, money, and their character. It speaks to all these different things. So uh, there's an aspect of divination that's really about healing and really about realigning oneself. So the messages that come from divination are to that end and to that purpose. So the priests, especially those that are diviners and specialists, they're here to help people. That's what we're here for. That's why we sit on the mat. That's what it's all about.
You know, I was actually, you know, I forgot to show this. I'm glad you said that because you know in my presentation that I did, I actually was showing that that the Odu also breaks down the parasympathetic nervous system, um, and that there each Odu breaks down like with digestion. You have Otora, Meiji, constricting of the pupils. You know, each one, you know, different things that each Odu connects to. You know, so,
Um, I have not studied the Odu in that manner. What I do know is this: that there are various Odu that speaks to different levels of health. Like, for example, the Odu that came from the Odu Oduni for Akbaye for this year, it came with a warning against sickness.
mhm.
But also with that warning, it also came with various rituals that and the various ebos that need to be made. The Odu is a Torah Oriko, and it gave us various ways to deal with all the aspects of our lives, not just health. And in a lot of cases, or in many cases, the Odu will prescribe ritual for that.
Not sure.
So it really depends on what it really depends on what the Odu says. You know,
So,
what is what is it that that person is meant to do?
Ashe. So, you know, we have been here unbelievable for almost 2 hours.
Wow.
It's a one, so we're like about 7 more minutes. So here we go. What would you say in a closing statement? Um, this was a great build. I really enjoyed the knowledge you gave, the stories. You're a great storyteller.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Okay, you have a few people here. First, I do want to shout out some of the people that you have in the audience. Abo Karade, Baba Akinkube placed a shell
Ebola,
on my head. Both Orisha, Oya, and Ifa, I value his teachings, direction, his courage that comes from the empowerment coach.
to all of the Karade Fakayode family of Ilemo Ifa, and to all of my brothers and sisters, both here and in other places. I give my greetings to all of you, Ebu Eboye, to the teachers that initiated me to put my feet in the mud and that taught me how to pound Aking, Ebu Eboye. I am thankful. If I hope that my words that I have presented today or this evening has brought honor to the priests.
Okay, I think you have here Awo Ogunsola Karate is in the
Yes,
building.
yes, to
Um,
all of my
oh
family.
yeah,
Ebu
okay.
Eboye. I thank
Ifa
you all.
Segun
Thank you.
Karate. You got a lot of people up in here, so I'm just letting it be known the people that are here. Okay, Oboto Baba. Okay, you got some people, you got some supporters up in here.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Shouts
guys so
out to
much.
all the family that came to support uh, uh, Baba Karate. So to close things out, I just wanted to just get like a final word. Thank you for everybody being here. This was a great. Okay, hold on. Ile Imole Ifa is here. Ashe, Ifa Segu and Karate.
By the way, Ifa Shegun, that is the Akpan for the temple. He is our temple Akpan, and we are very proud of you. Very proud.
Wow, thank you for Ifa Segu and Karate. Thank you so much, everyone. This was awesome. I really Mellow Mind says Abaroy Boye. You have a lot of people here showing their
Exactly.
support. All right. So, what would you like to say to close out?
Um, for the people that are involved in the religion, keep moving forward, keep grinding, keep moving forward to fulfill your destiny. For those people who are curious, keep and wanting to learn more, keep learning. There is more to learn now than ever before. And for those people, for all of our brothers and sisters, wherever you are, I don't care what religion you practice, I don't care what you listen. Love you, love your African self. Love your African self and free the ancestors inside your heart. Love your African self. It's okay to be, it's not okay, it's beautiful to be who and what you are. And don't let nobody tell you different.
All right. All right. What website can we find you at?
You can find me on a couple of different pages. One is Ifa Temple of Light is the Facebook page. Also, my YouTube page, Baba Karade on YouTube. Those are the two primary places. I have another Facebook page, Itefa, the Sacred Journeys. It's actually a video project of my Itefa in Alade, Nigeria. I want to give a salute and a shout to Oluo Chifami Fakayode, the head of the International Council of Ifa Religion, and Mogaji Onibudo. I want to give my greetings, Ebu Ye Oluo, to him and to my family in Alade. And also Baba Karade on Facebook. Those are the places where we are now. There may be more, but those are primarily the places where we are now.
Okay. Well, I hope everybody definitely supports Baba. Thank you so much for being here. This was a great live.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Ashe. Well, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Boato.
Alchemize your energy. Darling, let your spirit be free. Don't give up. Keep on pushing through. Now is the time. It's all up to you. Alchemize your energy. My friend, let your spirit be free. Don't give up, keep on pushing through. Now is the time, it's all up to you. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, we will always take flight. Keep on pushing through the darkness of night. There's no darkness to light.